Entertalk Radio, you're in to all things music.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. And I am Scott, your host, and a man whose NCAA tournament bracket looks like a diaper fire. It is blown to hell. And with me in the booth is Paul and Cedric, and we're hanging out. What's going on? Yeah, how's your NCAA? Are you doing the tournament bracket this year?
No. I have enough diaper fires going on around here.
Oh my God, my bracket, like and I don't know that much about college basketball, so I take comfort in this, but I'm sitting there watching like day one, and I'm like, I could not have picked. I think if I need to do like the George Costanza on Seinfeld one time and just like do the complete opposite of what I feel like is the right choice.
Oh man, that was the greatest. That's got it. Yeah, I mean, now that you know what you pick is the exact opposite, that's basically you got all the data points you need. Just do the complete opposite, and you'll be good.
Exactly. Next year, I'm doing the George Costanza opposite of what I think. NCAA tournament bracket, and I'm sure that will be a lot more. I mean, hopefully it gets somewhat closer. I'm completely done. Mine's done.
Hi, my name is Scott Robertson. I live with my parents, and I think retargeting is the best form of marketing.
Oh, there you go. that would be the anti-me saying that kind of crap. I like it. Well, folks, you are tuned into the show. It is episode 81, and I call this episode PESO Happy. And what I mean by that, we're going to talk about the PESO model or PESO model, depending on, what ethnicity you are. But PESO, so let's get into it. I'll just dig right into it. Basically, marketing today is about mastering this kind of model, especially when you're dealing with media. So we're going to talk about what it is. It's paid, earned, shared, and owned media, and what that looks like in a real media mix. And just like a good DJ, you really you need to know how to mix your media. It's very important in order to keep the crowd dancing and having a good time. Really all night long. Of course, we're also going to check in and see who's winning and losing in marketing communications this week. We're going to have a lot of fun and dig into this and hopefully make some of this PESO stuff make sense to people. So I don't know, where do we start? Let's see. So the model again that we're talking about is PESO or PESO, which is paid, earned, shared, and owned. And let's just do some quick definitions of what sort of the marketing world agrees those things are. Paid is advertising. Let's say you're doing digital marketing and you're running, pay-per-click ads. You're running social sponsored posts of some kind. You're paying somebody to run your message, right? It is a paid operation. So that's paid, pretty easy. Earned media is, traditionally like publicity. So like public relations. So you're getting the press to talk about a company. And that's part of your media mix as well. And your earned media is in there as well. Shared media. Now, this is really social media. This is really the stuff that you're doing on social and the stuff that that not only you are sharing and commenting on, but other people are sharing and commenting on that has to do with your company or your entity. And then owned media is really the stuff that you own, you control. Your website, your properties, right? Your blog, your stuff, So again, paid, we're paying money, advertising, earned, publicity, things that we're earning. Also, influencers are, in that category. And some influencers can be unpaid, but you better disclose it. Again, I've done plenty of shows on the FTC guidelines about if you're going to pay a influencer in product or monies than, what you need to be able to do. So shared, of course, which is social and all the sharing that's going on. It's a sharing world. And then owned, which is the stuff that you own and you control, and the stuff that you create, literally your content. So now that we got some definitions out of the way, let's talk about sort of how they work together. The first thing I want to say about the model is, it's relatively new. Over the last few years, you've seen it sort of come up in marketing discussions and discussed, quite a bit. Here's one thing that I will say: we're in this day and age of paid, earned, shared, and owned. The silos that once divided marketing are really going away. If they haven't been completely destroyed already, they're really going away. When I was working for a public relations firm that was owned by a bunch of ad firms, there were really strict silos about who's handling paid, who's handling, earned, and really those teams didn't talk to each other. Which I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, that sounds really stupid. That's really stupid. You're dead on right. But that's reality. Reality is that people want to own their own little fiefdoms, their own little kingdoms, and they don't want to talk to other people. They want to involve as few people as they can so they can run things, with as little complication as possible. That's just human nature, and that still exists today, by the way. But the silos, really, marketing has changed to the point in which the silos are really going away. And I'm traditionally, more of a public relations practitioner, and it's still my absolute favorite thing to execute is public relations. I think it just works the best. But that said, I also have to be an expert for my clients about paid, about shared, and about owned media. You have to become an expert. This is my key message for the show today. You need to have an understanding of all of this stuff, and you need to build up where you're weak. If you're an ad person, if you've done paid all your life, you've been paying for it your whole life, then it's time to, learn what it's like to have a real relationship that you don't pay for, and out there. And, that's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing. One of the coolest things about marketing is the fact that it's a profession that's always sort of on the move, and you can always learn new things. You can always do new things. So again, if you just know the paid side, brush up and learn about the earned side, learn about the shared side, learn about, content marketing. And by the way, what I'm going to say, I'm a big message first kind of person. I think it goes without saying, yet I'm going to say it anyway. The same message needs to be delivered whether you're talking paid, earned, shared, or owned. If you have different groups doing different things and they aren't sharing the same hymn book of the same key messages for the company, you got yourself a really big problem on your hands. You got a message creep problem, and you got all kinds of incongruency and inconsistency in the marketplace of how your message is delivered. So again, it's really, really important. And I'm not saying necessarily on larger organizations. If you work for a large organization and you're like, well, I'm just in charge of earned and shared, that's great. But that doesn't mean that you don't ask questions and know what's going on in paid and make sure you know what's going on in owned. You need to, as the person responsible for marketing in any organization, you better ask the questions and know what's going on in all these facets. Because as we talk about, one of the first rules of branding is that everything counts, and every piece of this equation counts: paid, earned, shared, and owned. Very, very important. PESO. So where do we start? I get that question a lot. They say, okay, so where do we start with this using this model? I like to start at the end with owned. I think owned is the best place to start, because if you look at it, owned is the stuff that you're building, the stuff that you're creating, the stuff that you literally own the most of, right? The reason we don't, a lot of people for the longest time, especially when social media first kind of, came on the scene, a lot of people were saying, oh, we'll just shut down our website and we'll just have a Facebook page, and they have more traffic anyway, and yada, yada, yada. Well, that works great. Right up until the day when Mark Zuckerberg wakes up and says, I think I'll change the Facebook algorithm today and make sure that, none of these corporate messages get through anymore. I think I'll do that, just for fun. And then this empire that you have built on somebody else's very shaky ground just goes away. So I always advocate for that reason, and really that reason alone, I advocate the owned media first. Also, it's the best way to get out what you're trying to get out in terms of your message. We talk about message first, right? You figure out your brand voice and your message first, and then you create your owned media. Now that's your content. Again, your blogs, your videos, your things that go on your website, the stuff that you own, and it's like an anchor, to the program. Then when you have some really good content, let's say you've created some great videos, you've created some great blog posts, you've created a lot of cool stuff. Now we're talking about the next piece up the acronym. We're talking about shared and earned. Now, obviously, if you have a good story to tell, if you have a product and press are reviewing it, then that's earned media. And you want to use your shared media to amplify the earned media and that sort of thing. And you also want to make sure you include that stuff on your owned media, because it goes away out there it doesn't rank as high and those kind of things. And you always want to have that stuff on hand, on your own website, so people can see all the great things that you're doing with your press, right? Again, this is always a mix. This is always going to be a mix, right? It's very, very much about that. This is change, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you're doing marketing, the PESO model, with paid, earned, shared, and own, kind of integrating those things together is a lot of change. And people really don't like to change, but, I've run into some PR people, before, and they say, hey, I'm not really in marketing, or I don't really do sales, or I'm not really this. Be careful of that. You want to be really careful of that, because, depending on how you kind of twist the prism, it's all marketing. It's all all of it falls to the job function of marketing. PR can absolutely generate leads. It can absolutely convert sales. It can do, it can provide, value to different audiences. Paid media actually can too, so I think, the first thing is that we need to recognize is that this is change, right? And it's change, and it can be really difficult too, because if you're a senior person, you've come up and you've learned how to do marketing a certain way, and then the marketing landscape shifts on you, then, you don't know what the hell's going on, right? Because, and that can be really, really stressful. I know a lot of people in PR who were like, who in PR and marketing, who were like the greatest people at their job ever in like the late 90s. And then they stopped learning, and then the world changed on them. And now they're, no offense, but they're not worth very much, in the, to companies. And companies aren't going to pay you, and then you're going to be one of those people that has to be a supervisor, right? And then you're going to be a terrible supervisor, because you're teaching people the old way of doing things in a world that doesn't represent what it is that you're doing. So all of that comes to this point. Be a lifelong learner. If you're in marketing, you have signed up for lifelong learning, because your profession changes faster and more dramatically than any profession that I can name. It is nuts out there. It is. It really, really is. And you can look at it two ways. You can look at that, one way and say, well, I'm really scared of all that change, and I'm just going to dig in as long as I can and be invaluable, and maybe I'll retire before, I have a chance to do that. Or you can look at the opportunity, which is the opportunity that you first had when you, first came into the marketing profession, which is, hey, let's learn something. Let's learn something new. Let's do something amazing. Let's figure out how to do something cool, right? So that's certainly what we're all talking about when we're talking about this model. And there is going to be some discomfort, because I know for a fact that there are very few marketing people that have mastery over every single piece of this, because of the siloed nature of marketing that once was. But what I'm saying is that ain't the truth anymore. And so everybody needs to bone up on the parts that you don't know. I was never, I have a bias against paid media. I don't like advertising. I don't think it works. I don't use it. I'm not a fan of it. I never have been. by the way. You go back any part of my career, and I've not been a fan of that. And just because I look at data and I look at what builds relationships and those kind of things, and that isn't the piece that gets it done, in my opinion. But you have to understand paid, and you have to understand that paid has a very powerful role in this piece, right? If you have a content post that's doing really, really well, paid can help you reach even more people. It can help you hit a few more people than you thought you could before. It can do a few things that are unique to it, and that's really, really important. So again, owned media. One thing I will say about owned media that a lot of people agree with is the fact that you really need to know what you're saying. So it's good to have a schedule. It's good to have a calendar. Here's what we're going to say. Here's when we're going to say it. This is what, it's good to know that. First of all, you should have a message map document that says, this is the emotion our brand is centered in. This is our positioning. This is how we position versus the customers. This is our versus our competition. This is our message, that is all customer centric and all that messaging stuff we've already talked about before. But then you look at your editorial calendar and say, okay, so we're going to do, let's say we're going to do one blog post a week, which I find is a good thing to do, by the way. I'm not a fan of people who post multiple times a day. It starts to get on the needy side. It starts to get on the really kind of desperate side. And also, especially in social media, you want to be really careful, man. I mean, you want to be really careful because they didn't invite you in there. And the last thing in the world that they want is your stuff when they're just trying to have people compliment them or tell them it's going to be okay after they had a hard day or those kind of things. That's what people use social media as a big mirror, to, post pictures of themselves. Oh, you look so good. Oh, do you think so? Oh, that kind of thing. I mean, it's a mirror, baby. It's narcissists looking in the mirror 24/7. And, and the minute that you show up there with, hey, isn't this great? Look at this new drone that we're launching and this kind of thing. Maybe that's cool enough to penetrate or whatever. But maybe it's like, hey, now you're interrupting people telling me how great I was or how cute my kids are or what a cute dog I have or all kinds of things. Or isn't it great that I'm on vacation and you're not? I mean, all those kind of things. Social media is all about that. So, again, we always have to know that kind of stuff. And we are talking about PESO, and you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing this week.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EntertalkRadio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, it's Friday, and you are so smart and so good looking, too, because you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, that guy they were talking about. And we've been talking about paid, earned, shared, and owned media. I got Paul with me. Paul,
hey,
what are you thinking so far? You liking the?
Yeah, very good points about social media and relying on Facebook to be your your distribution channel. You can't get too comfortable with that, like you said. We've kind of experienced some of that on our own skin, where there's. Mm-hmm. They definitely can lure you in with a lot of like reach that you would be hard pressed to build on your own, and like the speed at which it could propagate. But then if they decide to pull the rug out from under you, there's not much you can do but just adapt and evolve with it.
Yeah, it's definitely true, and same thing with all other social networks. We always talk about Facebook, but don't forget about YouTube. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, I got this YouTube channel, and I have all my videos there," and then they kind of act like they own that, but it's like you don't own that. Google owns that. Mm-hmm. You are putting your stuff on there and helping Google drive traffic to their stuff on their site that they own.
And then a lot of this stuff gets really politicized. So if you kind of stray into some area that's a little bit controversial, you always run the risk of getting your content pulled, and there's not much recourse you can have after that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's an important rule to keep in mind when you. I always tell my clients, I say, make sure you're using social media as an amplifier, but you don't want to. You don't want to build your kingdom there. You always want to make sure, and that goes for every social network that's out there. You want to make sure that you have built your kingdom on something that you own yourself, and you're investing in something that you actually own.
Unless your kingdom is a social media network, in which case go nuts.
Well, there you go. And it could be. Well, let's talk about who's winning and losing. Brought to you by United Airlines, the world's most friendliest airline. Should we start with United Airlines? Let's start with United Airlines. Good God. So every week, by the way, there's a new United Airlines story, and this week was no exception. On this past Monday night, a dog died in a plane after a United Airlines flight attendant forced the dog into an overhead bin. Maggie Grimminger, a passenger on a flight from Houston to New York's LaGuardia Airport, uploaded a photo of the dog's owners on Twitter and wrote, "I want to help this woman and her daughter. They lost their dog because of a @United flight attendant. My heart is broken." Passengers heard barking during the flight, but didn't learn the dog had died until the flight was over. And of course, you have probably heard about this story. And United Airlines, tried to respond. Their response was, "This was a tragic accident that should never have occurred, as pets should never be placed in the overhead bin. We assume full responsibility for this tragedy and express our deepest condolences to the family and are committed to supporting them. We are thoroughly investigating what occurred to prevent this from ever happening again." All right. So, yeah, the problem United Airlines has, the ongoing problem is that once you can, when you have a continuous track record of stupid that goes back so far now, it's just one thing after another thing after another thing after another thing. And then, it's like they killed somebody's dog. And then the next day I saw a story and they sent somebody's dog accidentally to Japan that was supposed to go to Montana or something. And it's like, people are going to lose faith in your brand. You're going to go out of business. I know that you're a federally subsidized, airlines are subsidized by the federal government with a lot of money, right? Which I don't think they should do that anyway. It's like if you can't make money on a business, the government should not be involved subsidizing your business. That's a bunch of crap, in my opinion. And it doesn't, it opens the door to all kinds of, what should government's role be, in terms of that. It's like we should vote. If you're going to use my tax money to support United Airlines, what if I hate United Airlines? What if they killed my pet? What if I don't want to see my tax dollars going to support these morons? What if these people are so stupid that they don't deserve to be in business in the first place? Which is where I'm at, which is what I'm thinking right now. Their PR is terrible. Their operations are terrible, absolutely unreal. And I know that everybody's like, well, I'll just fly United the next time or whatever. I won't. I'll tell you one thing. There's no way after doing all these stories all these years, I will not fly United Airlines for any reason. And somebody said, well, what if you had to get to a meeting or whatever? I'd figure it out. I'd find another way to do it. It's just, and I think that a lot of people are going to start to get that memo, man. I think that this airline is going to go down. I mean, how many stories of stupid can the world handle before they just put you in the category of, oh, that's the stupid airline that does all kinds of bad things, and I think that's what's coming for them. So anyway, United. I would love to do a show and not mention United once, but every week there's something new and even dumber. So United losing. I think that goes without saying. California may be losing because its bullet train system cost has now risen to almost $78 billion. And this is the bullet train, which is going to connect basically kind of San Francisco, Los Angeles, that kind of thing. It's a route that goes from San Francisco to Los Angeles. You can get there in that's a high-speed bullet train. You get there like an hour or something like that, which is great. It's great. So, and that's why obviously people wanted to connect those parts of that's the state. But man, $78 billion, that's impressive. That's an impressive amount. And it's impressive that the price keeps going up, and then in the same week that California announces, hey, we have a budget surplus of like $6 billion in California. And it's like, as a business owner in California, yes, they have a budget surplus. They do. Because the taxes that they lay on businesses and individuals in this state are unlike any taxes anywhere else. And then what's the phrase I'm searching for? Right. Piss it away completely on projects like the California Bullet Train, which, I think things like that should be a private project, to be honest. I mean, I think, let Elon Musk get up there with his tube technology and blow that thing out. And then, then we're paying Elon Musk for the thing, whatever. I mean, they're going to get it done. They're going to get it done a lot faster. And the cost isn't going to keep going up. I mean, Elon Musk is going to colonize Mars. He can damn sure put a train between Los Angeles and San Francisco, in my opinion. State of California is losing because of the bullet train. Boo, boo, boo. Study came out this week and was published in Fast Company about how much money people make and how much money do you need to be happy. And basically, the survey of 1.7 million individuals from 164 countries, so it's not just U.S., researchers calculated that $95,000 is an optimum salary for achieving fulfillment. Now, to me, I mean, you could say $95,000, but where? Where is $95,000? Because $95,000 in Missouri is going to buy you a whole hell of a lot more than in the great bullet train-less state of California, for example. But they, not to impugn their research, which I'm actually doing, so I apologize for that. But it's an interesting story. Check it out. It's called "How Much Money Do You Need to Be Happy?" It's on Fast Company, and it's interesting. It talks about if it's a matter of one's day-to-day feelings of happiness as opposed to broad satisfaction with your life, then between 60 and 75,000 may be sufficient, according to the study. After those points, the benefits of making more money decrease, although there still may be some benefits. Average household income in the United States is $65,000. 75% of American households earn less than that. So, obviously, you can say that that American households, according to this research, are sort of on the cusp of just barely being like day-to-day happy with that level of income. And again, to me, you got to look at the cost. You got to look at your cost of living too. It's not how much money you make. I mean, that's only one factor. You also have to look at how much money you keep. After different governments dig into it and take all your money. So I'm going to put that in put that in American households, I guess, are winning, because if the average household income is close to the place where the researchers say you would have your day-to-day happiness, then that's got to be a win, right? Then you're making enough money for everyone to be happy. So why isn't everybody happy? That's a subject for another show. Let's talk about chatbots. Chatbots are losing a little bit. They came on the scene and people were really excited about, creating these little kind of AI-driven, content creating chatbots to come on. And you've seen them, you may not be aware you've seen them. Where you see them is like, you ever go to a website and it says, a little chat window opens up and then somebody's suddenly talking to you. Hey, do you have any questions? I just wanted to see if you had any questions, that kind of thing. That's a chatbot. Okay. If you've seen that, you've seen a chatbot in action. And for like basic questions that a lot of people ask, what's the warranty like? What colors does this come in? Those kind of things. They can load those kind of things in there. But, it's not a person, right? Human behavior is wildly unpredictable. So I think there are instances of chatbots going wild. In 2016, I don't know if you remember this or not, but Microsoft released an online chatbot called Tay, which had a built of, it was a kind of a mix of AI and content that was written by writers, including some improvisational comedians. This is always a bad idea, by the way. Comedy is always offensive. I mean, it's usually offensive. Good comedy usually shocks and surprises and has a tendency to be offensive, right? I mean, if we started naming comics, odds are they're folks that did some stuff that was kind of offensive in their day. So, Tay, they had to pull it because it started to regurgitate some racist comments and questionable material that it picked up from online trolls. I don't have time to quite get into Tay, by the way, but as a chatbot, but please do research Microsoft's Tay, because it is nothing short of hysterical. And so I want to throw that out there and make sure that you have the opportunity to check out what Tay was saying and why they had to pull it. Microsoft, what are you going to do? But anyway, chatbots are losing their luster a little bit. Is really what the industry observers realize, that chatbots. I think Gartner predicted by the year 2021, 50% of enterprises would spend more on chatbots than mobile apps. I don't know. I'll put my marketing hat on for a second here, and I'm going to say, it's not a person. It's not a person. There's all kinds of downside if it starts doing. You're trying to build what do I always say? What is marketing? We're building relationships with people. We're not building relationships with our bots and people. We're building relationships between us and people. And if we don't care enough to be there ourselves in the conversation, then why in the hell would somebody else be there? I mean, it's just, to me, the whole thing is just really, it's kind of a counter, thinking thing. So I would say no to chatbots. But look up Microsoft's Tay, because you will crack up. iHeart Media is losing. They are out of business. iHeart Media they're a huge radio conglomerate that is very debt burdened, and they bowed to it this week and filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So iHeart was known as Clear Channel before, which was the nation's largest radio company with more than 850 stations. They also own iHeartRadio's major streaming service and a 90% stake in Clear Channel Outdoor, which is actually doing okay. Clear Channel Outdoor did not file for bankruptcy, separate entity and that kind of stuff. But now you could easily say, okay, well, radio's dead. If you had somebody like Gene Simmons on here, he'd be like, whoa, radio's dead. And you're a very handsome and awesome man, but radio is dead. But radio is not dead. And the data on that, what you have as a company, all companies have a balance sheet. All companies have to make money. All companies have to bring in more money than they put out, right? There you go. And so if you don't do that, then your butt goes out of business. And you go in, especially if you take on a lot of debt, to do things. So I don't see it as a an indictment on the radio business, although the radio business will certainly be impacted by it. I see it as an indictment on iHeart Media's management and ability to be able to manage a large company. They try to kind of fully leverage all these different stations together and do some things. And, honestly, just from my understanding of the company and what I know about the company, seems like they spent too much money. Seems like they should have looked really closely at what they were spending, looking really close at what's coming in, and make sure they could keep the thing solvent, And but anyway, iHeart Media is down for the count. And I guess the last one I want to talk about is something really winning. The 2 Mayo Clinic orthopedic surgery residents have gotten more than 1 million views this week. Really cool video I want to draw your attention to. So these 2 doctors from the Mayo Clinic sing the Mike Young song, All Right, basically one of them is playing the piano. William Robinson is playing the piano, while Elvis Francois sings the song as an homage to patients and the stresses they encounter orthopedic surgery. Francois posted the video to the Facebook page with a nod to his inspiration. And, but I encourage you to go to YouTube and check this out, or just, to try to find it out there. I found the story in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. But it's definitely worth checking out. And the reason it's winning too is, they didn't set out to make a viral video. They just set out to do something cool. And the doctor can really sing, man. I mean, really, really can sing. So, it's a great performance. It's a really honest moment, with these 2 doctors just playing and just doing that. And those kind of things can really strike a chord. And, as we're talking on the show today about paid, earned, shared, and owned, I mean, they got 1 million views. I mean, do you think these 2 doctors are out there, with some kind of grand strategy of how to get people to share it? The reason people are sharing it is because it's awesome. Is because it's flat out awesome, and it deserves to be shared, because you don't often see your orthopedic surgeon, singing like that and singing. And it's a great song to begin with, and it's just a great performance. I encourage you to check it out. And the lesson there for all of us, I think, and the way to be winning is maybe don't try so hard. Sometimes we try a little too hard. And you are trying hard because you were listening to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. I'm going to give you some tips on how to master this paid, earned, shared, and owned media stuff. See you in a few.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EntertalkRadio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. It's Friday, and you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk, and I am Scott, your host, and a man who just went through a bunch of winning and losing stuff going out there. Got Paul with me. What do you like this week, Paul?
Oh God, the United thing is. I think I'm with you, and hopefully everyone else. Like I'm done with them.
Just be exactly.
Like normally, like me and probably most people in my socioeconomic category, like when they look for plane tickets, are just like whatever gets me there cheapest. But like I generally don't care. I expect pretty much crappy service from everyone, but this like okay, I'm done. I'll pay extra $40, whatever. Just don't suffocate me in the overhead bin.
Oh God, it's so bad. And then the next day they sent somebody's pet to Japan.
Yeah, man, and that's what you brought up about being subsidized by the government. I think it's a huge issue with something like this. Like I was born, and for the first 10 years of my life, I lived in the Soviet Union, and this is pretty much how things worked there. Like everything was government run, so no one had to try any harder than just the bare minimum. And this is and that's exactly the service. Like this is Soviet era customer service that you're getting with United.
Your dog, maybe it lives, maybe it dies. We don't know. You'll be lucky. You'll be lucky if you make it.
You should feel honored your dog sacrificed himself for the good of the party.
Oh, United Airlines, Soviet era customer service in a modern world.
That's it.
I like it. I can see it. Well, good. You're back with episode 81, and we are talking about paid, earned, shared, and owned media. And I'm going to give you a few tips like I like to do in this segment that will, help you with all this fun stuff. First tip that I want to give you is there are lots of people writing about paid, earned, shared, and owned. So make sure you're checking that out. Do that. But the first tip I want to give you is before you get to paid, shared, earned, and owned, your brand voice and your message are always the very first place to start. And I say that, and I say it over and over again, because you don't know how many times and how many things I've run into where people say, okay, we're just getting started. We've already got a logo and we've already got this. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, how did you create the logo? Oh, well, we got a buddy that's a graphic designer, and so he just created it. And then I asked the next question. So what's it based on? Oh, well, it's just something cool that we thought would work well and that kind of thing. No. Voice and message and what message? Are we talking about our message about how long we've been in business and what our qualifications are and how great we are, right? Are we just looking in the mirror? We're just looking down at our navel at our message? Hell no. We're talking about what is the customer's message. What do they want? What are their needs? What kind of voice do we need to be in order to, be the best possible partner for what they want and that kind of thing? Customer first, right? And always and again, this is always the place to start. And I know that most people write to me sometimes and they say, "Well, Scott, that just seems really obvious." It does seem really obvious. It seems to me it couldn't be any more obvious. And yet, would you like to know how many times I have to fix this same problem over and over and over again, with different organizations? You must start with the voice and the message of the company. That is always the place to start. If sometimes I go into a room and I ask, there's like three principals of the company, like there's three, head people of the company, and I say, "What's the message?" And one of them will give me an idea of what the message is, and then I ask the next person, "So what do you think the message is?" And then they have something different. And then, "What do you think the message is?" And then they'll have something different. And I say, so if the three people running the company, can't agree on what the message is, how in the hell is anybody going to know what this company is or what it does? Right? That, and again, that seems like a really basic and obvious thing too. However, it's real. It's just, it's just real life. It's just people don't spend enough time on the message. I think I've probably said it hundreds of times on this show, and we're only at episode 81, but voice and message first, right? Don't get down the road and say, how many Facebook ads can we buy, or how many sponsored posts can we do, or what content can we create before we know why we're doing it, before we know what the message is, before we know those kind of things. Very important. There is a distinct order in these things. Number 2, always invest the most in what you actually own. I said this earlier in the show, but this is a very important tip. I see people blowing this right and left. Your content, your site, your blog, the stuff that you own, the stuff that nobody can take away from you, the stuff that nobody can wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to change the algorithm, and now the audience doesn't see it anymore. Don't fall into that trap. Make sure, because we don't know what people are going to do. We don't, you don't know what somebody else is going to do with their website. You don't know if they're going to stay in business. You don't know if they're going to be in business. You don't know what the new owners are going to do. That's all in the category of we don't know. So we want to invest the very, very most in the stuff that we actually own. Our own blogs, our own content, our own stuff. People say, I want to create a video so I can put it on YouTube. No, you don't. You want to create a video so you can put it on your website, and then you want to amplify it with YouTube. You also want to put it on YouTube. Great, fine, excellent. It's a huge audience in YouTube. I get that. I completely understand that. But you want that video, your investment of you creating a video, you want that video on your site. You don't want, you want people to be on your site, your stuff. Invest in your properties, If you're playing Monopoly, you wouldn't put a hotel on somebody else's properties that they own in Monopoly, right? It's against the rules of the game. That'd be fun if you could, to be honest. It's like marketing Monopoly. You could actually, build your hotel on Mark Zuckerberg's 3 properties and see if that works out for you and you win the Monopoly game. Who's going to win the game? Is it going to be you or Zuckerberg? If you're putting your hotels on his property, that's a really, I should invent my own version of Monopoly for marketing, with all these different, anyway, side note for another day, I guess. But, again, tip number 2, invest in what you actually own. Very, very important, and not enough people do that. My tip number 3 involves paid media. And, if you're going to do some paid media, one of the cool things that paid media offers too, is the fact that you can do some A/B testing. You can have, like if you're doing let's say you're doing a simple pay-per-click ad on Google, right? Very simple to execute, very simple to create, that kind of thing. Have a good message, but maybe you have 2 different versions of the message. You can run A/B tests. You can run on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can run this ad, and on Tuesday and Thursday, and Saturday and Sunday, you can run the B version of the ad. And you can run those, or you can run, there's a lot of different ways you can do A/B testing, with paid media, but make sure that you do that, because sometimes what we think the message might be, or what the message might be for a given audience, maybe not, so I am sort of a fan of the A/B testing. What else was I going to say about A/B testing? You know what? I think when you're creating a paid media strategy, right? You're shelling out money, right? And you're trying to get your message in front of some people that maybe you couldn't earn your way there, and do that. And again, as I said, there are tremendous uses for paid media. I come down on it sometimes and those kind of things, because I don't think it always has. I certainly don't recommend leading with it. I recommend it as a supporting strategy. And sometimes, let's not forget, on some paid media, that if you're running an ad, sometimes it can actually lead and open doors for you on the earned side. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. You need to understand that if I'm running a full page ad, in Guitar Player magazine, then maybe, I have a little bit more of an open window for my earned side to do something too. Not every publication works that way, and that's fine. A lot of times they want to keep it really kind of church and state, and that's fine. But certainly in the music business, if you have your booth at NAMM and you're a music manufacturer, the publisher for these magazines is going to come by, and the editor for the magazine is going to come by too, and they're certainly talking at the end of the day and saying, "Hey, I visited this company, and I visited this company too," and that kind of thing. And obviously, as we learned from the iHeart Media story, media companies need to make money so they can stay in business. They need to manage money correctly so they can stay in business is also an important and overlooked rule. But again, just back to my tip, especially, in this digital marketing side of things, don't feel like you just have to run the one ad. Make sure that you understand that you can do some different testing kind of things with your paid media. And sometimes people ask me, how do I get started? How do I get going with paid media and that kind of thing? You almost always want to have a partner for something like that. An interactive agency is a good partner to have that can do some of that. I have several go-to partners that I work with that help me when paid enters the picture, and it's part of a marketing mix that I'm overseeing. Then I certainly have my share of consultants and other contractors and stuff that can come in, and firms that can look at that and come alongside us and be that partner. So it's important. Tip number 4, as I talked about, there's a lot of change that has to come with marketing practitioners and dealing with this PESO model. So my tip is you want to start with a simple strategy and then go crazy. I've seen, it can be pretty overwhelming if you kind of put all this stuff out there and go, well, do we have every box filled? It's like, you may not have every box filled, at the beginning of your strategy, and that's okay. Just like, it is a mix, right? So let's just use a DJ analogy. Let's say, you're working, you're creating a new loop, and you've got, a drum beat that's kind of, dum, 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 dum. You start with something simple, and then you start to build on it, and you say, okay, well, there can be a keyboard patch, on top of that, and there can be a bass, a funky bass line in there too, and then we can add, some guitar and those kind of things. If you're creating a, like a loop or even recording a song, start simple and then go wild. Otherwise, it's very easy to, get frustrated. It can be very complicated, particularly when you start looking at measurement. If you start looking at what you're going to measure, and we should probably just talk about that for a second. What measurement's got to be built into your strategy. So for paid, obviously it depends on what you've got, but it could include things like, your Google AdWords, how your Google AdWords doing, it could be, are we driving people to our landing pages and how many people are downloading our content? It could be increases in leads from our email marketing, because we're amplifying that with paid. It could be new fans or followers, from reading sponsored only content, that kind of thing. And of course, leads and conversions, makes the world go round. So you want to make sure you're doing that. On the earn side things, you can check out things like, your influencers, are you reaching influencers? And then what is the level of influence that's going on there with the earned? How much of our web traffic is coming from different stories that we're placing about the organization? And and just make sure you're checking and seeing if your earned media stuff, your news outlets, your blogs are really sending people to your site, to your, your destination. Are we reaching new audiences? That kind of thing. Always a good idea to make sure you're doing that. On the shared side, you have to track the number of fans and followers, things like that. But, obviously, if you're increasing fans and followers, that may not be, those are kind of vanity metrics. So it's like, maybe assign a point value to your likes, tweets, shares, and comments, and it might give you some numerical data, about whether something's going to work or not. Also, don't forget about unique URLs and things like that for your shared media. That can be really an important thing to do. Now, for your own media, what the things you want to be measuring on that obviously are, unique visits, time spent on the site, do a bounce rate, things like that. We're distributing things through email marketing. Can we look at how many subscribes we have? How many unsubscribes do we have to this kind of things? We also look at, we look at sharing, are people are sharing our stuff, and then of course, obviously everything needs to come back to, how is it impacting sales? How is this stuff impacting sales? Is it moving people, down the sales funnel? Are we, forging a better relationship with people than we would otherwise have? All those kind of things can be in your measurement strategy. And you want to start with a simple one, again, and then you can kind of go crazy. The last thing I want to talk about is, be a lifelong learner on this stuff. Read more about PESO and invest in that ongoing education. Check out things like Spin Sucks, PRSA's website, Ad Age, Forbes, anything, talking about, this kind of model, set it up as a search term and just, be able to do that. So those are my 5 tips. So what have we learned today? We've learned there are many arrows from which we can choose and decide, about just the best way to reach our target. And every single one of those arrows can do different things. Know them very well. Understand them. PR people who say they aren't responsible for all of this are going to find themselves behind the times and like in a supervisor role very quickly. Marketing moves and changes like your failed diaper fire NCAA tournament bracket. So do your best out there and keep learning, keep growing, keep listening to this show. I'll help you as much as I can. That's it for me, marketing fans. Until next week, this has been Scott Robertson, host of May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media. Rock on. You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Entertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at PESO Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. PESO Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?